What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Lost Records Journal, Player One Visible's Lost Records Focus podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Judge Riaz, the Abyss Sentencer, and I am here with my co-host, the Ravens of the Abyss, Adam Evalt.
Multiple Ravens?
Yes.
I am just a 27 Ravens in a human costume.
Yes. Do you see that raven that pops up everywhere in the game? Like one of those ravens, that's you.
Just
It's
one.
not
So I'm only one of the Ravens now.
no, you manifest into one of those ravens. You are all the ravens, but you manifest into like one as the leader.
So
Like Kat.
so when they call, they say we are Legion, but they just say we are Adam Evalt.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm
Subliminal
understanding.
messaging. If you
Got
rewinded it, it'll say that.
So okay. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, we are back now, thankfully. Um, obviously, thank you everyone for watching the review episode. It was really greatly appreciated. We'll come on to that in a second. But anyway, before we start as well, we're on episode 26. If you are new here, please do like the video, share with your friends, subscribe. We're at 1,700 subscribers, so you can help us get to 1,800. That's great. If you don't subscribe, you don't like the video, one thing that's going to happen in the hole. I don't even have to make a big one here. You go into the hole. That's what's going to happen. So yes, please do subscribe on the channel as well. And Lost Records Journal is available on all podcast services. We're on Spotify with 99 followers, I think, when I last checked as of today. We also have 27 5-star ratings, which is remarkable. But yes, thank you so much for that. And we're also on Apple Podcasts. We're available on all platforms. So do go and follow us there. You get the episodes instantly as they become available. And your ratings help boost our visibility. So it's always greatly appreciated. So please do rate us as well when you get the chance. Because it boosts us out to other people who are finding this game and enjoying it, so they can enjoy us as well whilst we talk about it. So, Adam, episode 26, we're back. As I said on Strangecast, we don't know how the schedule's going at the minute. We're recording the podcast as they are, so this is recording the 19th of April. We meant to be recording in the week that you might be getting this podcast, which is the week that's coming for us. We're just trying not to jinx it at the moment because we've got something planned for that, hopefully. But yeah, we're back for this. We've done our full spoiler cast and review. It's available now. Thank you so much for everyone who watched that. Thank you for all the comments. We read all the comments. I assure you of that, barring certain ones. They were all fantastic. Obviously, we all have different feelings about the game, different interpretations, the endings and stuff like that. So it was interesting to see and read them all, and see what the vibe is and the feelings, and a lot of love. And when we put those content out, it means a lot for us to get the reviews and stuff. And that was a long episode as well, like to do it for 2 hours. Even I realized as well. And I was like, this is a long one. So yeah, thank you for the support for that as well. It's always appreciated from us. And there's like a lot to be talked about as well. Like in that game as well, like I would prefer to have done like a 2-week wait before we even recorded because I wanted to play it 3 or 4 times before I did it. But we, when you run the Lost Records Journal, we're at an impasse of where we have to record things. So like obviously there were certain things we might have like misinterpreted, but that is just based on one playthrough. And me and Adam are playing through it again now. As I've said before, please do not jump on us because like we get Nora's social security number wrong because like it's a process of time. Life is Strange was 10 years. I've had to like get my feelings right about that. And even then on podcasts, you can sometimes slip up. So just bear in mind whilst we become a lot more familiar with things, because like we will do a full review of both tapes. We'll also do a review the reviews episode with Adam. I love that format that Adam brought in for the for the tape one, but at the moment, and Adam agreed with us, we're only getting trickling in reviews, and the Metacritic score is very low at the moment because it's based on 4 reviews, and it doesn't feel fair to do it right now. So we thought we'd do it here, and then I think next week we will review the reviews because I think there's a lot of interesting takes that have been offered in there, and it was a fun episode anyway. I thought it was quite funny just to do it. So we're back. We've got certain things. So we're going to be going through some older interviews that have shown as well, more or less near release and back and forth. And there's some talking points in there. Our format, Rage Records, as well, will be formatted now. So I think what's going to happen is it can be a theories discussion, which you can submit. And Kev gave us that name. Thank you so much. We always appreciate that. It's a really great name as well. With Rage Records, and Adam will probably agree with this as well. I didn't discuss it with him, but it will be, you can bring theories in, and obviously for the projection of the future of the franchise, that's fine, and the IP and stuff. You can also bring a comment in as well. So it's essentially the comment of the day equivalent of Strangecast, because it would make sense for us to do that because we'll probably run out of theories or something in between it. So whatever it is, your comment, just bring it in here, and you can bring it as a theory or something for us to discuss or whatever. Please do leave them on the videos because we do 100%, we read all the comments. You've probably seen before, we reply to almost all the comments as we possibly can. So please do leave your thoughts because we do like to value your input onto this show. Adam, before we start, obviously, Lost Records is out. We've done the review. How do you feel about it? Just post reflection feelings before we start.
I hate it. It's stinky. I actually put it in my Xbox and it emits a little rotten egg smell every time I put it in because it's a stinky game.
Terrible.
Yeah,
Terrible.
awful. Yeah. No, I think that there's a lot to go off of this game. We've been reading the comments and some of the endings that some people have gotten. So if you
Mm,
do go into the comments of that spoiler cast, by the way, um, some of the endings that people got is just like, wow, I'm gonna have to redo some choices because there is seems to be like a lot of different variations, just how the game plays as well as how the
yeah.
game ends. So, yeah, this is gonna be a game that's replayed over and over and over again by many people.
And I think that's fair because, like, even when people said I'm disappointed in my ending, I think maybe that's a reflection of like you as a person, like in terms of what you chose in the game and
Yeah.
what came out of it, and like the story and the way it plays out. I think maybe you do need to play it again because the same with Life is Strange too. The endings were so diverse. Like you get some really high ending ones, someone's a bit like, and it's like that's naturally what happens with choice and consequence. So, yeah, as I said, I'd love to have played this 3 or 4 times before you like got into it because there's so many different little things you can talk about in that review and spoiler cast, and we didn't touch everything either because like if we did, we probably would have been there for 4 hours because it's already long enough as it is. So it was enjoyable. And as Adam is there and he's trying to kind of like, hide the spoilers. Lost Records Journal is a spoiler cast now, essentially. Every episode going forward. Do not come here if you haven't played the 2 tapes. We obviously appreciate you being here, but it is just that FYI because Strangecast will be marked with spoilers for the time being. This is not. And the thumbnails, more or less, with the YouTube channel will be beige in terms of the social posting, in terms of our social feeds and stuff, but they will get aggressively a bit more spoiler heavy as we go on. I'm trying to let people enjoy this game as much as possible. I know people are coming out at different times and stuff. So I do warn you as well, we are going to go into spoilers because there's a lot of things we're going to talk about because in itself, these interviews we're looking at retrospectively because of how the game ends and whatnot. So that's that. Adam, should we go into our first piece of news then of this
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
series? So this was a big one, but we're going to be focusing on 1 or 2 little details. So this was an interview that was published before um, Lost Records Blue Rage's Tape 2 was released. This is an interview with IGN France. This was Michel Koch, obviously the studio creative director at Donut Montreal, Lost Records Blue Rage director, and also with Jean-Luc Cano, who is obviously the writer on Lost Records Blue Rage, obviously a writer on Life is Strange 1 and 2. Big influence, and obviously the two of them have worked for a long time. And this is one of the excerpts I wanted to take Adam as well from this. I think there's maybe one more I might pull up, but for now, this is the main one, which was they asked here in the interview, it said, what can we expect from the future of the Lost Records license? And as you can see, MK himself, Mr. Director, as I call him, Michel Koch said here, and I quote, thanks. Oh, by the way, as well, this is translated. So if, in case something is misinterpreted, it's a translation via French text. Michel said here, thanks to Don't Nod, we had to create we had the chance to create a new universe from scratch. We'll see what we can do next, but for our part, we've already thought about it and we already have in mind where the story could go next. The story, the location, the characters, the lore around the abyss, the magic that comes from it, and everything revolves around the game. We have our stories in mind without necessarily knowing exactly what the project will be done next. We're at least making sure to prepare the building blocks and narrative threads that will allow us to develop Lost Records universe over the long term. If we're given the opportunity, of course. So that was the quote that was there, and that was near the end of the interview. So Michel has spoken about the future of the franchise. I don't know if the ending is of that his comment is like, "Ooh, maybe we'll do it," but because like obviously Luke did the Xbox Wire post back in 2023 or 2024 where he said that Lost Records is greenlit as a franchise from Don't Nod. But obviously, a lot of stuff has happened to Don't Nod since then, and we've seen with the reorganization project, we covered Don't Nod's earnings, so maybe there is a bit of a formulaic change there. I think at least with his comments, he's setting up what you should expect from the franchise going forward. Because I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of polarizing receptions. I don't know why, for example, for me at least, and it's your opinion as well, the narrative has started around a tape 3 because, well, this is 2 tapes. They told you that. Like it's one comment, someone says it, and then everyone picks up on it. I've seen it. Everyone's like, we need tape 3 to explain it. It's like they've already told you that this is a series that's been greenlit and they will explain things as it goes forward. And I'm not someone who's one of those people where it's like it has a cliffhanger ending and oh my god, this is horrible.
No.
Because like again, they've already told you this. This wasn't a Max Caulfield will return at the end of the game, and it appeared, or it's like 18, the odd rating 86, where it sets up itself for a sequel when it doesn't deserve it. This game had already established that there's a story here, and a lot of it has been told. There are some issues in the story, of course. I've seen it myself. I'm not someone who's going to completely gloss over everything and be like, oh, it's fantastic and da da da. You know, I think like there are some issues with the story in certain respects, but I think there's a lot of mystique there, a lot of mysteries. Michel's kind of alluded to that, and I just wanted to know what you thought about where Michel's kind of like put this in terms of going forward.
I think he's leaving it as open ended as he possibly can for the future of not only this franchise but of Don't Nod in general.
Yeah,
Because again, he says the story, the locations, the characters, the lore around the abyss, the magic where it comes from, everything revolves around the game. So it's just kind of like we're setting something up. Uh,
mm.
and even the question before it's, will there be new characters in phase two?
We'll come on to that. That was actually the other part I was going to pull up, but well,
Yeah, but, like, that's the thing, just, like, without necessarily knowing exactly what project will be done next, and that's the thing, it's like, they don't know, but they're setting something up, and hopefully I mean, again, Michel can't really promise anything because, again, these fans, they'll eat anything up. When I mean fans, I mean these journalists will just eat anything up and just put anything out there. Um, but yeah, no,
don't give my people a bad name.
you already did that yourself.
No.
But but that's the thing, just like, I think it's not necessarily PR talk, but just not promising anything?
Yeah. Well, he's not really gonna hide anything because, like,
No.
again, anything could happen at Don't Nod where, like, they might change and they might be like, "We want you to make, like, a psychological horror thriller game and change into a completely different direction, and maybe we'll revisit Lost Records Online." Because obviously, like, Luke has already said that this is a series that has been greenlit by Don't Nod, and it seems like Don't Nod have something valuable here because, like, this is the first game since, Vampire where it feels like there is potential here to, like, move forward. I'm not saying it against Banishers in the sense of it's a good game, obviously, you love it, but in the sense of it can make something in the future where maybe it's a foundation point where there's a franchise comes from it and it starts making money and generates kind of like some success for the studio. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and yeah, it's PR talk obviously because he's not going to like unwind all the fears because even some of the other topics we have in here about Michel is now cryptically teasing at things, and I think he doesn't want to, but I think he needs to kind of like clarify things because some of the reception has been interesting, the way that people have seen the game and the way people have interpreted it as well. I think you've been away from online discourse, so you haven't seen how people are reacting to it. Because my take was very different, where I felt in the way the game has ended, and I'm now kind of dabbling in the theories where I think there's more to this. When he tweeted about one thing, and again, we'll come on to that. Um, it's interesting. There's potential. Like I looked up as well because like I think we naturally assumed it was going to be an anthology and stuff. Like there's no mention of that
Hmm.
in terms of it could be a straight anthology. It could be a direct sequel. So it could be like a direct sequel in some way. Obviously, with Michel, he's someone who really loves his like giving people player agency. So if you do a direct sequel, you might start impacting canon choices at the end of the game because of the different endings. I still have this weird feeling, and it's just I don't know why it's for me. It's that do you know that Jumanji effect where it's like the abyss is that kind of conduit that connects the universe. So it's
Yes.
like people can like when Robin Williams comes out of that hole and it's like oh there he is, and it's like he's in this like different like era where he when he disappeared and he's an adult. It could even be that connection because where the game ends as well, for example, where it shows Kat in the abyss, and even you need to look at her hair, for example, in the abyss. But like when she's in the abyss, and then like Corey's in the abyss, and even where it says at the end of with Swann, where it says she can enter the abyss. And let me clarify this as well. When I said it in the last review episode, I was like, why do people keep saying she's jumped into the abyss? I took that in the literal sense as the tism was because I was like, where did the jumping happen? Because I was like, I did not see that. And when I went up to the prompt, I wasn't looking at it. I just went and pressed square. So just a clarification on that. And it says that Swan enters the abyss. What happens if the abyss is the conduit that connects different people into different parts of Velvet Cove? Because even Michel said at the end of one of the interviews we did, or one of the interviews, he said you'll leave the diner and you'll see what it looks like depending on your choices and stuff. So maybe there's more to this story, or maybe there's not. There's like a lot happening here in moving parts because I'm interested to see what they do here. There's a lot of potential with them. They've set a foundation. Hopefully, the sales continue at a decent pace and it does well. And then from there, they could expand and keep looking at stories because things will keep influencing them and changing them because they'll probably be aware of the climate of things and what's happening in the industry and then also what's happening in medium as well. Because Michel spoke a lot about Netflix and TV shows during the build up to this about in interviews. And he was saying we split into two parts this game and we did this story. Is the tape formula good? Maybe not. maybe you should just release the game as it is, and maybe people are going to be like, oh yes, they're going to be like jumping up and down it. Maybe that is it. Maybe you split into 3 parts and you do it over 3 months, and you have the production that gives you time to do that, and it makes it even more fairy crafting. Um, because I don't know if this is a wild claim to make, but I think sometimes as well, like the period between time of the tapes being released also impacts the game. Because I remember, for example, Life is Strange, episode 5, Polarized coming out, and fittingly enough, it had a polarizing reception because people were taking so long to make fairies up that they felt like maybe it was a letdown for what they expected from the game. And eventually, Polarized looks better because people do think about it differently, but the reception was not as strong as it once was. So maybe people have made all these theories in their own heads, I like us, for example, and maybe it's not lived up to the potential that they wanted with it. Because I think I have spoken to someone off DMs as well about it. Like I went in the expectation that this isn't a Life is Strange game. It's not even a Life is Strange spiritual success. I just treat it as its own thing. It's like Oxenfree esque kind of like style game, and I was like, oh yeah, I love this. I think it's fantastic. There's so many good elements in it. Yes, there's some low points, there's some issues as well, but generally speaking, enjoyed it. I was like, great.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I think a lot of people need to replay this game. I think a lot of people need to
Yeah,
like redo the choices. I think a lot of people are kind of in the same way where I was with Life is Strange 2, where like you play it for the first time and it's kind of like, oh, my expectations were something else. You play it a few years later, it ages like fine, wine milk.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
milky
Fine
wine.
wine. No,
Yes.
fine wine. Um, yeah, I think that's a fair take. I think you do need to replay it again and again and get the other, because I've seen some of the endings. It's impossible to freaking avoid it and spoiler, but they are really like wholesome and like touching. Like even yours, you liked your ending when you were on your own. People didn't like that when they let saw the 2 girls leave. I was like, actually, the way you painted it was an interesting image. I was like, that's an interesting the way of
Yeah.
seeing it. And ultimately, this is my interpretation. And links to the second part of this interview, and I'll bring it up because you're going to when it's talking about the characters. For me, why I wasn't overly bothered by the way the game ended, and I've seen some people's takes as well, and I even saw one on like I think it was like maybe Alex Podcast Now's video as well. They were like the story revolves around Cat. There's like these things that happen, and like they didn't finish off the story. I'm like, the story does not revolve around Cat. The story
Yeah.
does not revolve around Cat because that's for me where I was really happy with the game ending and where I was like really happy in talking about tape 2 because this, and I'll say it again, and why I feel like, and I'm going to have a holier than thou thing, this was Swann's coming of age story. Michel Koch and Jean-Luc Cano on Life is Strange 1, 2, and this game tell coming of age stories. Max is central to the story. Swann is central to the story. You might not think it because she's not like, getting stabbed and doing all this thing. It always comes back to Swann. How do you end the game? You end with just Swann. The game starts with just Swann. You end the game just as Swann, where you go to the abyss. Do any of the other girls join you in that? Right. I'm pretty sure they don't, based on that other playthroughs. I've not seen anyone else walk up to that abyss with Swann. Kat's there in abyss form as she is, but no one
Yes.
else is there. And it's Swann again walking on her own. It is always about that option. Even for example, like Life is Strange 1's ending, it's Max walking on her own to
Mm.
like, the funeral where Chloe's there. Like, she's on her own for like large parts of it. Again, re-emphasizing that message. Obviously, there's people at the funeral, yada yada yada. But it's important for that. So I wasn't really bothered by it. And I'm going to highlight again because, as Adam said as well in the interview, there's a lot of things that are said, and I'd love to go deep diving into this, but we are time conscious of other things. As it says here as well, which characters do you feel closest to? Even though I imagine you like all of them, which girls ultimately resemble you the most? And you have Jean-Luc Cano there who says, I love Swann a lot, like Max, like Sean, like Daniel, like Chloe, the characters from Life is Strange 1 and 2, editor's note from there, because she's my heroine. Now, if I had to choose those who were most like me when I was her age, I would say Nora and Kat. Maybe more Nora, in fact, since I was kind of cheap rebel with the same look and same big mouth and quite laughs there. And obviously then Michelle as well. For my part, I was really more like Swann during my adolescence, quite early in my youth. I got a camcorder and like her, I made lousy films. That said, Kat remains a very important character for us. Already because of what happens to her in the game, but above all because she's the one who drives the group. To see that the public likes her so much is a real victory for us. So I think that sums up where I think Michelle sums up where Kat's position is in the story. She drives the narrative forward. She's
Yes.
great for it as well. She's central to the story, similar to
She's a Rachel
Chloe.
Amber. Yeah.
Yeah, or Rachel Amber. Either or. So Rachel
Mm.
Amber or Chloe, or even like, Sean essentially to Daniel, she drives the story forward, yet the focus is on this character who's Swann. And they
Mm.
both relate to Swann because they've both written her as the main protagonist, and they're seeing everything through her optics. They're projecting their personality onto her. Then you project your personality onto her. And Kat's that kind of like really great energy ball to drive the story forward. And then you have the accompanying parts, i.e., like Nora and Autumn, who play their own roles to configure the story. But for me, that's why I felt like when the game ended and people have already made the logical decision to go to the ending of this game, saying that Swann Holloway will return, that might not actually be the case. They might actually set up to be completely different. It might just be Velvet Cove with the Abyss, because the
Mm.
Abyss is establishing something and it's filled with mystique. And one thing I'll say as well, and maybe I was going to bring up later on, one thing that's very clear about the Abyss is not everything needs an explanation. It
Mhm.
really doesn't. And this is not a cheap defense or something like that. Not everything needs a defense. Go back to some certain pieces of medium, for example, Scream. Billy Loomis, that famous thing where he's like, do we know why Hannibal Lecter eats people? And he says all these other little things where it's like, you don't need a motive. Not everyone needs a motive. And for example, look at when Thomas Harris wrote Hannibal Rising, because he wrote the book, because it's like he was basically put in that position. And why you realize why Hannibal Lecter eats people, it's like, oh, that's underwhelming. And imagine if Michel explained every thread plot point that explained the Abyss, you're gonna be like, that's stupid. And
Yeah.
one more quick one, and you'll know this as well. What was the one Stephen King book that you read when we were talking, and it was about someone who goes back in time
11/22
to,
63.
and does it ever explain how he can go back in time?
Yeah, it explains it.
How?
Uh, wait, what do you mean by how can he?
See, there's the difference. Does it explain why that place lets him travel back in time? We know how he can go back in time, but is there an
Right.
explanation of why he's allowed to go back in time?
Oh, is there? Yeah, because like in the book and even in the show, it just says like they stumbled on this. Like it was just
Exactly.
always there. Yeah.
Exactly. And what is one of Michel Coe's biggest influences? David Lynch, and then another one is like Stephen King. Just as a very
Mhm.
small example, he loves Stephen King. And Stephen King has that kind of thing where people love his books, but then they also critique the quote unquote illogical way he doesn't explain certain things. Even the same with Shining as well. He puts like little mystiques in. Look at the way Shining is seen at the end. That open interpretation, that one photo at the end of
Yeah.
Kubrick's interpretation of it, at least, it created theories and philosophies and all kinds of things that came from it. And it's the same with Michel here. You explain everything about the Abyss, it's going to be like, nah. And he's like laced you with like little hints at the moment, to the point where it's doing what Stephen King does with that book and that show as well, where it's like basically he can go back in time, but they
Mhm.
never really explain why it's there, what it's doing. It's just that he can go back in time, but it's like that's not important to the story. That's just it is
Yeah.
what it is. So I think like there's a lot to be said about it. Again, I've read the other people why they feel the way, and you know, opinions like you know they're very divisive. So
Mhm.
it is what it is. But anyway, I think that's that. There are other parts of the interview. Do you pull anything out on there, or do you want to move on to the next one?
We can move on to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Because as I said, but there's loads of them. I'd love to just sit here and talk about loads of them because like there's a lot of details, and these were coming out just prior to Tape Two's release,
Mhm.
and we didn't really get a chance to cover them because obviously I did a review. And speaking of which, Adam, this one was also there as well, which was from the PlayStation blog. Again, Michel. So he starts talking about some of the stuff in Lost Records as Tape Two. He's talking to the PS blog, and there's just like little details here about this. And so he's put here as well. It says in the PS blog, yeah. So I don't know where the quote starts and ends on here. It feels like there's a typo or something here, but it says Michel was eager to tell us how this experience would differ than the first. The first, oh no, sorry, that's quite yeah. The first tape, Bloom, is a nice and sunny part of the beginning of the summer of you meeting and bonding with these girls. The second half is called Rage, which is mostly aftermath of the cliffhanger at the ending of tape one. We wanted tape one to let the player find their own space within the group of friends, getting a feeling of summer where you meet friends, but also giving hints of weird things. They're finding and clear. Sorry, they're finding and clearing. Sorry, they're finding the clearing. They're finding the abyss. It's a very natural story of four girls having a summer together before Swann moves away. Who's in there? So, but tape two will focus on more of the more on this weirder part of the story. Yeah, we know what happened at the end of the summer. We still don't know why, but we know that they promised not to see each other. What about the weird box? We know about Kat, but we don't know the consequences of this revelation. How do you continue to have a normal summer with your friends, and of course, continuation of what's happening with those weird things they found in the forest. And as you can see, Adam, that's one of the official screenshots. We did not get that ending because she
Nope.
disappeared, which is annoying, but as well. Michel continues, well, those supernatural elements will be more important. Personally, I love trying to blend supernatural things and surrealism, revolving around the story of our characters. You can create a darker, weirder mood while still focusing on the characters and then adding the characters. We create this vibe and it will get stronger and play a huge part of the story's resolution, end quote. The pacing of this follow up will be more brisk as well. Michel said tape two definitely picks up in pace. We saw what happened with Kat at the end of the concert, and tape two will start the next day with Swann having to face guilt, even if it's not our fault, of putting friends in danger. Will advance through the month of August up to the end of events. So yes, it's faster paced with higher stakes, end quote. And then there's quite a bit here as well. I think there's another part here as well, which says Michel says that as well. Michel also emphasized players will see more of how their choices in tape one affect the overall narrative. We had a lot of choices. Who are you talking to? Who are you getting closest to? All those interpersonal relationships with the girls and so on. What was the choice you made during the ritual? What did you do at the Abyss? How did you react to Corey and Dylan in the times when you met them, when you were with them? Are you behaving in a more violent or unlawful way? Or are you sometimes taking the route to be cautious? A lot of those will change, of course, with what's happening with tape two. Um, so yeah, a very interesting interview as well, and I think he was really talking some big things as well. There's also that's as well where it says, "What about the second half of the narrative? The friends." Oh, Adam, this was actually a big one. I thought this was interesting because it really caught my eye. What about the other half of the narrative? The friends reuniting the bar 27 years later. Michel said that part will still take place mostly in the bar. We still need finishing. We still need to finish remembering the past. We need to open the box, which will be an important sequence. We have four different endings at the end of the present day portion, with variations
Mm.
on those endings based on the choices you played. During those endings, we will get out of the bar. You discover um, a bit more of how the town is today, 27 years later.
Mm.
And then on top of that, I like this part, which was the bar, he explains, is the game's whole concept was built around originally. Our pitch was a story where we were trying to convey the feelings of meeting with old friends you haven't seen for a long time, having a discussion with them, where you would be remembering your past and seeing if you can if we can reconnect with them today. I thought of having a moment in a bar, in a restaurant, or a room where you start to connect again, and sometimes you reconnect perfectly. Sometimes it's iffy and you don't know if you can still be friends. This was an interesting part for me, the narrative aspect. Within these walls, you are forced to talk, you're facing each other, and you're obliged to remember the past, end quote. Maybe I'll come back to one or two parts of that. But I found that interesting because it reminds me of the one thing that you noticed, and I loved it. It's where for example, Kat and Nora are trying to break into Kat's ranch. And when you get
Yes.
caught, it's like, oh, it didn't go that way. And it's like
Yes.
maybe we should stop forgetting. And it does that moment. And even when you meet the girls as well, first time, it's like the most awkward experience ever. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is what it's like when you meet someone after like that long.
Yeah. No, like I said, Michelle really goes into like what it means. I think okay, I'm gonna get in trouble with the fans right here. I
Here we go.
think yeah, I think we're all just so caught up in theories and how things end and oh, it was boring. You get so caught up in the theories. You don't look at like what Michelle is trying to tell you in terms of wow, the sun is really coming in now. But yeah, we don't talk about what Michelle is trying to tell you. Is trying to say when you reminisce on the past, is it everything that you remembered? Like
Yeah.
we're not talking about the metaphor that Michelle is. We're not trying to talk about the message that Michelle is trying to communicate here. It's that awkwardness of like if you go back to where you came from, right? Will it be the same for you? You
Hmm.
know, but instead we're talking about the lore is incorrect and the abyss and blah, blah, blah. What about what Michelle is trying to convey here?
Hmm.
You know, are we discussing that? And I
Yeah.
think that that's what Michelle really is harping on here in these separate interviews, you know?
Yeah. It's look, I get what people felt. And again, maybe this is something for Don't Nod to learn from that lesson of like,
Yeah.
let's just get rid of the tape formula and let's just do it as one thing and people can enjoy it. And then they can start theory crafting afterwards and look at the future of the franchise and et cetera, et cetera. And I think you're right as well, because like Michelle is now cryptically teasing things. And I think, again, I was fine with the way that the game ended. I thought that there was like still things out there. And I feel like again, I'm not sitting there thinking like, oh, are they just like, setting up for they've kind of told us that there's more of this story and with the
Yeah.
abyss and stuff. There's like cryptic hints of what it is. I didn't expect full blown like, yeah, you need to get rid of that sunlight. It's it's doing your thing on there.
We're having clouds here, so like it's going back and forth between the clouds.
Oh no, I know that I genuinely when I record now, I close my curtains and I'm sitting in a dark room with the light on because it's like I can't. Every time someone says like bang and it comes out really bright, and then
Yeah.
sometimes not. But anyway, yeah, you're right. I think he's giving good exposition on what you need to focus on, what you need to be on, like really like focusing in on the story. And in itself, when he presented the bar pitch and he said that that's kind of like where the game's kind of conceptual feeling happened, I really enjoyed that part because that's when I never got the criticism where people were like, oh, it feels like you're interrupting and you're jumping back and forth. It's like, well, that's the point because you're remembering the past.
Yeah.
Sometimes the past is misconstrued, and sometimes you need to be yanked out of it, and you're like getting out the nostalgia trip that you're having, and then you're like experiencing something in the present, in the here and now with that person, and
Yeah.
then you're jumping back and seeing something and you start seeing some things in the game where it starts to bleed effect across, and you're like, oh, actually, are there dots connecting? Again, this is something where I'm probably going to sit down at some point, like when I do my second playthrough, and like have a notebook and start taking because I've been doing screenshots as well during the back end of my PS stuff. Because like, I'm
Mhm.
like looking at if there's some connections and dots because it's quite like layered and it feels like there's things that are being done intentional. But I thought in the blog post that was just kind of interesting insight. I didn't read it before
Mhm.
obviously the game came out because obviously I knew that there's going to be some spoilers and stuff. Um, and yeah, again, this is not a complete defense of the story. There were certain things with the story, and when we do our full review episode, we'll like go into it because I think then we can connect the
Yeah.
dots from tape 1 and 2. Um, but yeah, I think where we're at, I'm intrigued by it. I'm excited for it. I can sit here making theories with you. I think you can make theories about it. I think the commenters
No,
will
I
make
can't.
theories about it.
I don't
No,
know. I don't care about theories or anything like that. Like
I
I
love
don't.
theories.
Not really. Like, I don't know. Every time someone, like, says, like, "Oh, what like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?" And I'm just like, "I don't know, man." Like, at the end of the day, we'll find out. They're good, and I love people who do them, but it's like, for me personally, I just like to see the here, the now, what the message is conveyed, and I just wanna see what direction that Michel tried to take. Um and that was me with 11/22/63, the Stephen King book.
Yeah,
Everybody trying to explain like, well, the lore's not correct here, but like, what was Stephen King trying to convey in this story?
yeah,
Or even Candide. Is it Candide or Candide by Voltaire?
yeah.
Um, in that story is like, what is the message being conveyed here? What is this creator trying to tell you rather than like, oh, what do you think the abyss means? It's just like, oh, not in a way. Yeah, what does the abyss mean? What is the message behind the abyss? Not what is the abyss? Is it aliens? It's like, what is the abyss? What is it trying to convey to you? And all that stuff. But like theories and all that, sure, go for it. But like, really get the message behind what Michelle's trying to tell you.
Yeah, no, it's fair because like I'm never going to be the theory expert as some other people are.
Mm,
And one thing with theories that I don't like in a certain respect as well, because we got a
mm.
lot of them wrong, is if I was sitting here thinking like, oh, they didn't use the age formula thing that we said, where it's like Swan's young forever. It's like
Sure.
actually, I'm not writing his story; it's he's writing it, and I
And that's
respect
not the
that he's
message he
writing it.
wanted to convey, like, for me, if he wanted to use the age formula that she's still young, that is like you trying to hold on to your youth forever,
Yeah,
you're not trying to age. That's not the message that Michel wanted to convey. He's,
no,
he yeah, with every that's the other thing, with science fiction, man, with, science fiction, it's like, "Oh, what do you think of this?" There's a message behind every single thing in science fiction, but you're all just trying to, like, say, like, "Oh, well, like, the deaths behind this." Even so, I think one of the best examples is that if you ask George Lucas anything about the lore of Star Wars, he is just like, I don't know, dude. I don't know.
oh, it reminds me of that scene in The Simpsons where they have the panel with Xena
Yes.
from and they're like in episode 438, Xena has that kind of thing, and she's like, I don't care. She's like, I'm just the
Yeah.
actor, but like,
It was it was actually Seth MacFarlane who was interviewing him. And he's like, oh, check out this piece. And it's like the music by John Williams. It's like, where's this scene in? And even George is like, I don't know. Like, well, what
yeah,
about this? And
you,
I don't know.
you go down a rabbit hole because I like theories and I enjoy creating my own theories in a certain respect.
Mhm.
and I enjoy reading other people's. The worst thing that I see is when people become believable about someone else's spirit and are convinced that's what needs to be told. So it's like
Yeah.
even on Reddit, I've seen some people say like, "This is how this should." I'm like, no.
No.
I'm just referring myself as swearing, but I'm like, no, no, no. Anyone can do that. I could make a video and say, "This is how double exposures should be written," and if I had full freedom, I could do this. But I'm
Mhm.
not working on the parameters and all the other stuff that happens. And all it takes is one person to say, "Change that in the script," and the entire your entire story breaks apart. And it's like when people do it with Michel, it's like that's what they should have done with Corey. That's what they should. Unfortunately, it's not your game. You can critique him and say that I don't think that was done really well, which is fair because we will be critiquing
Mhm.
this game as well. As much as we love it, and I have my own, and I've said this, but I have my own biases with Deck Nine and Don't Nod and stuff. But like, I will critique it because I'll be like, I don't think that's a very effective way or a smart way of doing it, despite the message. But I'm not going to say I can write it better than Michel and Jean-Luc and like what they're doing because you've only seen a part of the game and it's setting up for something else. I'm not saying that it's one thing I never got was weird was the sequel bait comment. Like, what is that? Like, it's
I
not
don't know what
sequel
they
baiting.
okay, I've seen those comments. Okay, is that a new term, sequel bait?
Yeah, but
What the hell
but
does
again,
that
Joe,
mean?
I don't know if it was in the other podcast, this one, but it's like when I said to you that tape
Mm,
free, we need tape free. Everyone's
yeah.
making the same comment. So one person said it, everyone's latched onto it. It's like, we need tape free. And it's like, why are you saying it? Because there's no tape free.
So, I will say 90% of the people that, I interact with on this, thing, they're great.
Yeah.
The good the positive reviews and also the negative reviews
Yeah, of
that
course.
people say
Yeah.
90% of it's the 10% where I'm just like, "What are you talking about? What are you smoking?" The whole,
Yeah.
sequel bait. What does that mean? Everything is sequel bait. That's the thing. We're trying to make a
Yeah.
sequel. So, I don't oh, it's so dumb.
See,
I don't know.
sequel bait is when you do a sequel.
I'm tired of those 10% of the people, man. I'm tired of
Well,
them.
sequel bait is like the Order 1886, or even there might be more extreme examples, but this is not sequel baiting though. This is a story. This is
Yeah.
a self-contained story in itself because certain things will be explored in different instances. You might learn more about the Abyss in another story. You don't need to
Why
definitively.
why wouldn't you want it to be sequel bait? Would you say Sleeping Dogs was sequel bait at that very end? That's what I mean. Why wouldn't you want it to be sequel bait? Because you're trying to get money for a second game to have a
Yeah.
job to convey something else. So, I don't know. I hate that term sequel
Also,
bait. What are you talking
also,
about?
and the way that they're approaching this as well,
Mhm.
they've approached Lost Records differently from Life is Strange because their intention in mind is to create a series with ideas and stories and stuff. Life is Strange was a different animal back then, where like the way that the
Mhm.
series has gone, you can see the way that stories have gone in that
Yeah,
series and the way the toy. It feels like, and as Michel said in the interviews, we have stories in mind for what we want to tell. So it's like they're already connecting a universe, and they feel
mhm.
like there's more stories to be told. This game, for example,
Yes.
doesn't need another game to make it look better because it stands on
No.
its own for me as a good game. I also understand your critiques and criticisms. I've read through them. I agree with them. There were people like Yellow Flash Hawkage, Thomas Merch, all these people that were
Yeah.
putting their comments in that I read your comments, and it's like they put their review
Valid
score down.
points. Valid
Yeah,
points from
valid
all.
points.
Yeah.
Valid, nice fuel will come in this later. I think in terms of they wrote a review and put it on Twitter, and Michel responded saying thanks for this. And even Michel said we had to walk a fine line with the supernatural stuff X Y Z ABC.
Sure.
And nice fuel I think gave it a 7.58. That's perfectly fine. And that's a great critique, and they played it. And there's a lot of points that were in there I agreed with. One or two points where I was like, maybe I want a bit more of an explanation on what you mean by that. But perfectly fine. That's an opinion. And you have every right to express that, even what you don't like about the game. If I give it a perfect score for just that component of the tape, it's not the full game. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean that that's definitively I'm not looking at the problems of it because we spend about
Mm.
45 minutes of that or an hour doing a review segment when that was
Yeah.
even the case. We said beforehand it would be like 20 minutes.
I don't know. I just get tired of the internet. That's why I'm not on the internet because some people are just again, the 10%. I'm speaking about the
Yeah.
90% of people who are here, people on the Reddit, it's fine. But like that 10% where I'm just like, shut up.
Yeah. Some
Like
people are
again, the difference between Halo 2 and 3. I'm gonna go on this Halo thing. And everybody's like, you can say Halo 2 was, oh, it's sequel bait. It really was that Halo 2 and 3 were designed to be one game, but then it got too big and they had to split it into 2 games. So it's like, I don't know. There's so much more to say about like this story. So of course it's sequel bait because they want to tell more, but they don't want to make it this 50-hour game. Make it into 20 hours. I don't know, man. I'm sick of the internet. Post Malone was right. Post Malone was right. Like, I hate the internet. That's why I'm not on it anymore.
No, it's fair, and we're also sometimes at fault because we might like do
Mm.
what other people do. But it's like you have to ground yourself a bit because criticism's fine and all that. But when people say
Yes.
this is what the ending should have been, I don't
Oh
agree with
my
that
god,
because
it's so
the
dumb.
vision, even with like double exposure, the story they told is what they told. And
Sure.
unless you're redoing the entire game and you're doing it from your perspective and you're writing it, that's it. Because if you're trying to write a certain thing and then it conveys
Mhm.
it can completely conflict with what Michel's telling you, because then the entire game falls apart. Because he's
Yeah.
telling you something else and you might be giving a different message. And you
If
might be
you
putting
if you're one of those people that says like, "Oh, I would write like this," then write a story. Do it. Do it. Go ahead.
yeah.
Get funding. Go publish your own game. If you can do it better, go. I'm just, dude. I'm tired of the internet, dude. Like toxic, man. And
No,
it's just dumb.
fair because no, because it's
Yeah.
fair because there's discourse with something. That's why I approach some things differently as well as like a reviewer and a critic when I've done it before in writing. Not take a holier than thou position, but then also when other people say something, as you said, it's a very small minority. Because I saw some
Yeah.
people in the comments say certain things. I was like, "What? Like we're
What are
not
you
even implying that,
talking
or what we saying?" Because it's like every other comment, I was like, "Okay, very valid points, very good points, fair play. I don't agree with that, but that's your opinion, and that's perfectly fine.
And
You've played
I
this
even
game,
agreed
and
with some people who said that, like, this game was a little bit boring, and I even said in the comments,
yeah,
I said, "Boring is very subjective." Like, if you think that this is boring, that's not necessarily invalidating your opinion because somebody's boring is another person's treasure. Think about all the people who love, you
Gone
know
Home, Death
oh,
Stranding."
yeah, yeah.
Do I have to keep
Death
naming off where
Stranding.
people
Let's
say
talk
that?
about Death Stranding. Talk about a boring game. But that's what I mean, though. It's like, I don't know, another person's boring. That doesn't invalidate, right?
No,
You can critique this game and say it's boring as your opinion. You can say that you can say that it's way too open-ended. That's also an opinion. That's fine, but to say that it's like, well, like my perspective would make it this way. Okay. Become a writer then. Write a book. I don't know what to
yeah.
tell you, man. Get the movie rights for that book. I don't know, man. People are just too confident in themselves. Bring back bullying. I don't know. Not
The
cyberbullying. Face to
To
face.
kind of put that as well, it's like compared to the bingo card's gonna play, where you compare it to like Life is Strange Double Exposure, and we critiqued certain elements within that story. We critiqued it because we are well aware of how the game played out and the way it was
Mhm.
built and the way it was produced, and that gave enough credence to criticize and make critiques about where the issues are within the game and why it falls apart and stuff. But with this game has gotten a logical start, a logical end, and it knows the contents
Yeah.
of what it is, and everything else is boring with it. And one of the always things that always stands out for me, and I really don't think highly of this TV show anymore, but it was Sherlock when it happened on BBC. And Sherlock says a one line, he's like, "Everyone's a
Yes.
critic," and it's like, yeah, it's true. It's like everyone critiques something, and it's like everyone feels like this is what the expectations were because they set up a big thing in Sherlock where the theory started of like how he did something, and the ending didn't explain it. And I didn't like it, but I was like, you know what?
Mhm.
It kind of probably sums up more about the quality of that TV show, if anything, but not
I I say it
what my
all the time
decision is.
about yeah, I say it all the time about Gilmore Girls, right? I say it
Yeah.
all the time about Gilmore Girls. Gilmore Girls, not my favorite show, but you know what? When, Amy Sherman Palladino, right? When she was still on the show and she left on the last 2 seasons or the last season, it
Mm,
became boring after that. I hated everything that happened in Gilmore Girls, but you know what? She stuck by it. I respect Amy Sherman Palladino because every decision, whether I agree with it or not, she stuck with it. She made me feel so angry, and I'm like, respect. Like, she's like, "No,
yeah.
this is a story I'm gonna tell right here." By the way, if you're Team Logan, you're not my friend. You're not my friend. Team Jess, all the way. Amy Sherman Palladino, Team Logan. Hate that woman. No, I'm just kidding. But that's the thing. She's sticking with it. She's saying, like, this is the story I'm gonna convey. And when she left that show, when she left after not it was like money thing, like contract. She
Yeah.
left. Show became so boring, so predictable.
Yeah.
Just all around, just like a great blob of a show.
Mention another TV show on Strange Cast, Prison Break. Look at the state of that story when
Yes.
it went off and that. Like, and any
Yeah.
other TV show, even like Lost, Lost is my favorite TV show of all time. But even when they renewed it in season 3, midway point, they had to like
Yeah.
change it. And it landed for me. It not landed for a lot of people, but it landed for me. But this is what happens when you start twisting stuff, because like even when, and I will come on to move into the next piece moment, but it's like when you get to the end of the game and Swann's there and she sees Kat and she says, it says "Enter the abyss." I'm like, oh, this is actually a good ending to the story, because it's like
Yeah.
we've told, what have we done for an entire game? We told a
Yeah.
big story. Whatever happens there, use your headcanon to fix it. I.e., maybe it's the next part is being set up because they have more
Mhm.
story to be told here, or X, Y, Z, ABC. There's a logical. I saw some people say that's not the ending. I'm like, I have this all the time. I've had it with people where it's like with MGS5, it's like the revisionist history. Oh, it's not finished. What? Because Kojima cut one part of the game because it wasn't able to be included.
Yeah.
The game finishes. It has a logical conclusion. It's a
Yeah.
definitive conclusion. It's not just a cut game. Are you? No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I enjoy reading critiques, even if I don't like them, because the one thing that what really peeves me off more than anything else is where people come up to me and say, "You're biased. You don't take other people's opinion." Not, and also, let me just say something. I don't really care what you think about me, just to say that as well,
Mhm.
because I also like have good interactions with people. I don't really care. There's a lie again. Um, Ultimately, I read other people's critique because I also want to see what they think of something, because nothing is perfect in this world. Even Metal Gear Solid, even Life is Strange, even Lost Records. I remember people critiquing Life is Strange as well and thinking that it was like, oh, this is a plot point. So there are issues over the game. But
Yeah.
it's like everything has an issue. It's like what you want to like find more value. I don't just rewrite something because I feel like it. But anyway, should we move into our next interview, and then we can move on to some of the Michel
Yeah.
Koch Twitter watch, because
Yeah.
okay, cool. Let me just pull this up. So Adam, we're going to the BBC, the
Mhm.
British Broadcasting Corporation, which was a bit of a surprise that it was here. Well, here it is. Tom Richardson. This came out on the day of launch, I believe it was. In his interview with Michel Koch, the studio creative director, down in Montreal, Luc
Yeah.
Baghadoust, the studio executive producer, and Olivia Lepore, lead actress of the game, who plays Swann Holloway. So just a couple of points in here as well, because obviously we now know stuff as well. Um, it says there as well, Lost Records is seen as a spiritual success and uses similar episodic structures split across two tapes. Life is Strange, I think he's talking about there, yeah. Um, while there was well received, while the first was well received by critics, a common criticism was its slow pacing with a heavy focus on characters and relationships over big story
Mhm.
moments. Michel admits that was quote unquote definitely a gamble, end quote. But he says the team wanted to recreate the feelings of a never ending teenage summer, focusing on quote unquote those moments of enjoying doing nothing in a world where we are always pressurized to do something. He
Mhm.
added as well here, and I quote, just sometimes having the opportunity to enter a world where you can be peaceful, enjoy the mood, I think it's important to say, he says, and end quote. Lost Records features an all female cast, LGBT themes, and touches on social issues such as body images. That made it a target for what what Luke and Michel call a quote unquote vocal minority, end quote, online, who target releases they consider to be quote unquote woke, end quote. The
Ah.
bingo card has started. Bingo. Bing, 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 bing. Michel says here, and I quote, we are in that weird time right now. We are making games for people who want those kind of games. I think video games need to start to be more mature about that. It's okay that there are a lot of different games and different genres and different audiences. It doesn't mean that because something exists, it's a threat to the other things you like, end quote, which is probably as perfect as you can put it. Executive producer Luke admits that the game is not for everyone, but he's so far had a quote unquote great reaction, end quote, from fans who clicked with it. He says here, and I quote, we made a game we would want to play. It's a way to really express what you wanted to and reach a different audience, end quote. I'm going to quickly pull up where are we going down here. So Michel's continuing to talk here about parts, and we've obviously played the game. I'm just going to bring up Olivia Lepore's quotes as well. So Olivia Lepore plays main character Swann Holloway, tells Newsbeat a lot of the game's themes and her character stories resonated with her. And she says, and I quote, I think part of the reason I got this role is because we have so much in common, and I didn't feel like I had to put on a character playing her. I definitely just in many ways got to be myself, end quote. Olivia says she's been blown away by the response from fans who've identified with many themes and issues raised within the game. She says, and I quote, I've gotten some really beautiful messages from fans about how they feel like they connect with Swann. I've been really touched by some of the messages to the point where it could be a bit overwhelming because I just emphasize so much with everybody's story, end quote.
Mm.
And just to wrap up, obviously we know this, but as it says there, as for conclusion of the story, Olivia says, "quote unquote, expect the unexpected," end quote. Wherever you think, wherever you think it's going, it's probably not, end quote. And Michel says choice players made in part one will play out in second, which is set to go some dark places and be much more dramatic. And Michel says that in a quote, "You can expect things to be, let's say, less happy and sunny and gloomy, more gloomy than tape one." And we
Yeah.
can't wait for you to open the box, end quote. So we obviously know that, and we've played that. So that was the interview. So it's a little bit things there as well. Obviously, the woke card was played there, ding 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 ding, like, as it is. They well aware of it, and I've always said this. I'm like, go and touch grass, like come on, like, are we really
There
like doing
there
this?
is administrative quotes to say like we are fixing a zoo here in America for woke ideology in a zoo, Adnan. In a
What
zoo.
spoke about it?
I don't okay, we're keeping this PG. I don't know, dude. Like images from the Enola Gay were taken off of the Pentagon. The Enola Gay, the one that dropped the bombs in Hiroshima. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were taken off the Pentagon because they were woke. Because the word
What?
gay was on them. Because the word gay. So yeah, no, I'm ugh, so yeah, like little sentence on that one. Why are we now waking up to what is woke? Like, everything's been woke for like the longest time, but it's like, oh, now everything's woke. What are you talking about? Everything's been woke. In the same way that people say Green Day is now in politics. What are you talking
It's like saying Rage Against the Machine in politics.
about? Bro, if Rage Against the Machine came out now, it dude,
That'd be
they
fair.
would not sell a single album. It sucks.
Um, there was
Um,
It's funny you mentioned that because I remember it as well. And that big part I remember watching in the documentary on Taylor Swift with Miss Americana.
oh
And she
yeah.
talks about the fact that her dad and the way they're talking about it, and she's like, I want to speak about politics. And she's like, they're like, this person's music career died because they said it. And then he's like, I want you to be safe and I don't need to speak about it. And you can see that it's doing that carefully PR calculated move where it's
Yep.
like, even with me and you as well, like, isn't it interesting because like we talk about politics sometimes, but we don't talk about everything politically. Where it's
Yeah.
like you do sit there sometimes thinking like if you say something that other people don't agree with, then it's gonna be like, that kind of revelation moment. And you do
Oh no,
sometimes well, no, let me just
yeah.
quickly bring it.
Yeah.
We do talk about it though, because we do bring it up. But sometimes you do sit there beforehand and think, should we talk about this? Because is that
Mhm.
what needs to be done? And it's like
Yeah.
that's the issue because ultimately everything is talked about. And I saw it time and time again over the last 5 years, just to kind of bring it in context. Even with the Meghan Markle episode in South Park, when they take the mick out of Meghan Markle
Yes.
and Prince Harry, all the right wing were like, "Oh my god, look, they're taking the mick out of Meghan Markle." You didn't watch the episode because they are also taking the mick out of you because they even make the message
Mhm.
in that episode. If you don't focus on her so much, it's not an issue and no one cares about her. She's only quote unquote craving the attention because you're giving her the attention. And that's why
Yeah.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are doing it. But it's not. It's the commentary. It's lost because someone will take it and do it. So the same with like Lost Records,
Yeah.
the amount of like weird YouTubers. And we've seen dislikes. I've shown you as well. We've seen dislikes on our
Yeah.
videos. Anything like
Yeah.
Lost Records. And I'm like, go and touch grass because I don't care. It's like because like ultimately, like we enjoyed the game. I'm glad that other people enjoyed the game, and I'm glad
And I
that
wanna
people
pick up
found.
from what this interview said of just saying like, we wanted to make a game that we would play. The slow pace was a gamble. You know,
Yeah,
you're not going to this is anybody that's in the comments or watching this or listening to this, and you are trying to make something creatively, whether you're writing a book, you're writing music, you're making short films. the I'm gonna give you some advice here. If you start to make something that's going to be for everybody, and I know the whole saying, just like, oh, if you please everybody, you please nobody, but it's true.
yeah,
You're going to fail if you say, I'm going to make a short film, but I'm going to make it Michael Bay style. You're going to fail.
of course.
If you make it in a way, let's say your name is Mark, right? I don't know what your name is,
Yeah.
but if you say like, I'm going to make something for Mark, you are
Mhm,
going to succeed. In the same way, I brought up Star Wars earlier, right?
mhm.
George Lucas, do you know why he made Star Wars?
Ooh,
Do you remember
can't remember what the
why? Like
reason.
specifically
Yeah, no,
why
just
he made Star Wars?
no, he has a reason. What was the reason? No, he makes it in the documentary. Oh my god, what is he doing now? Oh, no, what was it now?
He was not satisfied with the science fiction movies. He
Oh,
just
that's
he was
yes.
bored.
Yes.
He was bored with all the space movies. Like, I want to make a movie I would watch, and that's why. Like he implemented like practical effects. He implemented all these sound effects that we still use to this day because he made something for him, right? But he was so embarrassed by what he made that he didn't. I was gonna say he fled the country. He went to Hawaii, so he left the continental U.S. I guess. Um, he flew out to Hawaii when it premiered so that he wouldn't hear the critiques because he knew he made something for himself and it was a gamble. But guess what?
Yeah.
The gamble paid off, and guess what? Now we have Andor now.
Well,
So
also in that
yeah,
as well, George Lucas almost like had like a heart attack on the set of A New Hope because no one was taking it serious. And
yeah,
there's that famous story as well where Spielberg and George Lucas was so unconvinced that Star Wars wouldn't do well. He bet with Steven Spielberg that a Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which was coming out near the same time, would do
yes.
better. And Spielberg made a deal with him where he gets royalties, a certain percentage of royalties from Star Wars if it was successful. And it
Yes.
shows like night and day with that. But yeah, and to your point with where Lucas, yeah,
But Michelle is stating that like we know we're gambling with this. We know it's gonna not gonna reach massive audiences, but guess what? We are going to make something that we would play. And judging from the comments from our spoiler cast, there's a lot of people who resonated with this. A
yeah,
lot of people. I remember there was one comment saying like this is my favorite game of all time. Like they say like I this is one of my favorite games of all time. And
I
that's the
play
thing
Valve.
when you make something for yourself, when you make something that you would enjoy, it's a gamble. Listen to Caster Garden. That's the music I make. It is not for everybody. I am here to say it right now. It is maybe for like a very small percentage of people. But the people who
Yeah,
do enjoy it, they enjoy it. I listen to my own music because guess what? That's the music I want to listen to. So
yeah,
I don't know. I respect Michelle for saying that. You know, just saying like, "Hey, I'm going to make something for me." That's a gamble,
yeah.
and it is. Yeah, go Michelle.
Yeah, no, it's the same with like music. It's the same like Tool, for example. Most people listen to that and they'll be like, what's this? You listen to Schism, and it's like, what? And it's like, no, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. And you listen to like Metallica, it's like people like, why is it taking 2 minutes for them to build up the intro before they even start singing? It's a style preference. And Michel said that about his game, for example, and it shows the deterrence, for example, with like Kojima is now releasing Death Stranding 2 to a very polarizing reception of Death Stranding 1, because a lot of people criticize that as it's a walking simulator and a delivery package thing, and it's
Yeah.
slow and boring to start with. And maybe he is able to refine things as a sequel, or he continues to do what he wants to do because he feels like that's a good game, and he's still got a core audience of a lot of people who will play that game, and that
Mhm.
will work for him. And it's the same with Michel with this as well. If they need
Yeah.
to do that, like do this with this game, and then target like a certain demographic of people
I
who are
wonder
actually built to play that game, and go from
I
there.
also I also wonder what's it like being a producer for Kojima? Are you just sitting in the chair in the corner and just like,
Uh,
"Excuse me, can you no. Okay, I'll just be over here. Excuse me." It's like
there's
you
a lot of
can't.
interviews. There's a lot of
Yeah.
interviews with Ryan Payton, if you remember Ryan Payton.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's one actually, I should send you a clip as well. It's he talks about when he got MGS4's disc, the when it went gold, and he had to take it by hand to a I think it's in LA somewhere, so they could get the game going, because obviously this is 2008 before how they did it. And he
Yeah.
talks about like the process of it. But Kojima's really interesting as a developer, and the way he approaches things, because when I watched some of the old documentaries when they did MGS2,
Mhm.
every person that worked at Konami who was working on the game got a book, a empty book. So you basically jotted your ideas in there. So anything you thought, like you could doodle in there, you could write anything you want in there, and they would take it on as feedback. And like for example, Snake's rolling mechanic, which became really famous in the series, that came
Mhm.
from the book because it was
Yeah.
built into the book, and he was like really open, receptive towards it. That's why he's a very good developer in the way that he does it. And even when you said, for example, he has that entire like booth where you can do all the trailers. Yeah, he sat on his table like with his Mac, just like
Yeah.
doing like some incredible trailer. And it's the same with like I imagine with
Yeah,
Marin
that's
as
what I
well.
mean. I
Marin,
don't think he's like a monster to work with, but he's just an unstoppable force that
yeah.
he is just like, if you try to rein Kojima in, you're not gonna get like a Death Stranding or a PT
And
to that matter.
well, I've always said that as well, because even with MGS1, Kojima was reeled in with that, because like there's even the English
Mhm.
translation from what Psycho Mantis says in certain sequences.
Oh, yes,
They've
yes, yes.
they reel that in because what Kojima is going on. Every great person has an editor. So it's even like when Martin Scorsese had his famed editor, the
Mhm.
woman who passed away, I can't remember what her name is now. Even Spielberg has stuck with one editor more or less, and even Kojima, for example, at one point Harry Gregson Williams did his scores, and like he then eventually changed. and then he had like certain actors, and it's the same with Michel. Michel's got Luke there, for example, as a. I mean, Luke's not involved in the necessarily involved in the creative input, but he's got Jean-Luc, for example, and maybe you need a Jean-Luc to reel in Michel because, like, if
Yeah.
Michel has these wild ideas, or even Jean-Luc has these wild ideas, you have to bounce off someone to bring in the ideas.
Yeah.
And with the ideas that they're doing with here, they're pulling them into the game, and it's worked out really well. And it is what it is. They should keep targeting it. Maybe they increase the pacing. Maybe they keep the same format and they change things. There are improvements you can make from it. You have a foundation here. There are certain
Yeah.
things that work really well. The camcorder is a great idea. It adds to the flavor of something. It feels like something you'd expect Telltale to have innovated 10 years ago, or even like Life is Strange, and they've not done that. So there are options there that explore it. So generally speaking, the interview, it's interesting to see the little details. And obviously it's nice to see that Olivia Lepore is getting loads of messages, and, fantastic performance. I adore her. It's very Hannah Tell-esque, the performance,
Mhm.
and hopefully big things for her in the future. But yeah, very, very, very interesting to see. And obviously other parts of the interview we didn't cover because the game's out and stuff like that. So it is what it is. Should we go into our last couple of pieces, because this is Michel Koch watch again is now coming to play.
Yes.
And it's always great for this. So Adam, just a quick one here. So, because
Mm.
someone asked as well, because there was obviously certain sequences, and we could show this. In the trailer, there were certain sequences that weren't played. If you remember, these were from the Game Awards trailer in 2023. Was that when the game was revealed? 2023? Yeah, 2023.
Mhm.
So as you can see, those are some of the scenes that were shown. And this person as well, Aru 04126 says, I don't want it to be annoying, but I'm really curious to see if the screens from trailer one were scrapped in the final game, or is there still something left to see? And Michel responded saying, when we work on trailers, most of the time the game is not finished at all, so we have to anticipate and work
Mhm.
with the intention rather than real footage. Those shots are basically draft for the scene at the burning hideout. So that's a simple report, and yeah, that usually happens with trailers,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
fun
So
fact, game trailers are not necessarily made in-house. There's third-party companies that make game trailers for you.
yeah.
So, when we talk about the history of behind game trailers, and they're like, "It's not like anything in the game." Third party made it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in this case as well, at least Marin did it as well. So like
Marin
he's
did
doing
this
that
one,
thing.
yes. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right though. They will do things. It's like when during the Bakker interview where it's like Bakker was like he did the pitch, great idea,
Yeah.
and it's like and it's in the market. He's like, and it's like
Yeah.
yeah, and then we were like that because it's like, oh actually that's actually a real idea. And it's like yeah, and there it goes. So you're
Yeah.
kind of at the mercy of it. I mean, it's interesting because obviously like they're making their own trailers now as well, because it's not they're doing it with Square Enix. Like we saw it with Life is Strange 2 when they revealed pretty much like
Mhm.
loads of stuff in the trailers before the game came out. So yeah, that's what it is. Adam, so the next piece as well. This is interesting. Um, it's nice. Nice people thought. Was it ever explained why they waited 27 years to send the package?
Huh?
Um, and Michel's put, "Hey, I think it might be too early to
Mhm.
explain too much, but look at the date within the camcorder you film in the
Mhm.
present, and think of some of the objects like the guitar pick, or by no means the pin." And there's Nice Feel responding as well, saying, "OMG, I didn't notice the date. I think I'm starting to understand where you're going with this. So you're saving a lot of answers for the sequel, and I don't think Michelle responded. As you can see, also I'm there as well, because I have just
Yes.
seen the present dates as well. There's Lost Records fan for Chris as well. You should definitely go and follow them because it is definitely worth it. So this was something else I added in here because did I respond to this? Yeah. So this was another part because people were confused about how this box got there in a certain
Yeah,
way,
I thought
and
they mentioned that Dylan sent it, but then somebody
it
else is saying no.
yeah, someone said it in our last video. I put my take here, and I'm not going to read it out as well. Or should I?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
okay.
for it.
So yeah, so what I put from my perspective at least, I think that it took a long time because it was ultimately down to Dylan where when she sent the package to them. Kat even says in that in the letter that they received that if they received the package, it's because Dylan has finally sent it to them after she asked her to do so. It might have taken time for her to move on for what happened with Corey and Kat. I
Mm,
need to play again, see if there's any more dots to connect. But that's what I took away from it because the girls only reunite because the package has been sent to them in the first place. There's a missing poster in there about Kat. And if you see how and if you see how Dylan reacts after that scene, it would make sense why um, why she held on to hope that she might get her sister back. Sorry, I'm going blind or something. I'm not reading that. There's a screenshot because I sent to Yellow Flash Hawkage there, and it says in the corner there, as you can, if I can zoom in there. But I guess it also means my super sister actually did something right for once and got the package sent to you because this package is sent to um, Autumn's home address. No,
Mm.
oh, she sent it to Autumn's mum. Autumn's mum's got it directed to Bloom and Rage. So if there's that much time passed, it's probably obviously logical that that Dylan has sent it to the logical destination, and this is what brings them back together after 27 years because the package arrives.
Hmm.
Um, and I think actually, hang on a second, where was the comment? I think Michel might have responded here in another one, just to quickly pull it up. I think it's this one actually. Um, Michel responded somewhere else. I can't remember what it was. He's talking about the packaging
He's
of
a
the.
sneaky little fella.
He is a very sneaky little fella. I can't remember what the reply was. He said like you need to look at the box because like that packaging comes out after the date, during the final date of the in the
Yeah,
story. So it's like
yeah.
you need to like read into it a bit more. So it's like actually that does make sense. So I'm gonna just start sharing that for the moment. But yeah, basically Michel has kind of like again alluded to it because if you do go into the game, I sent this to Adam as well. Like when Swann pulls up the present camera, the date is not
Yeah.
the present timeline. In the bottom right corner, it's 1995. It says, and I think it's August. I think it's August 22nd. I think off the top of my head, it's the
August.
date in.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's in the corner because like if you record it in like certain parts of the or like the abyss, the start key thing gets in the bottom corner. So it's like, oh, actually, that's not making sense. Because obviously, you were joking about when you're like, why is camera in there with full battery? And it's like, how has
Yeah.
that got into there full battery and stuff? And it's like, if you link, for example, shadows that are appearing in the corner because they start appearing in the game and outside the window, um, where does this all connect? Because it feels like, yes, there's logical things to
Yeah.
be made because like, how did this item get into the box? How did this item get into the box? And
Yeah.
then we have a magical hole powering a lot of things. Maybe there's a
Yes.
bit of a logic here.
It
Um,
I could say something about that sentence, but I won't because we're keeping this PG.
Jesus oh dear God. Because yeah, there's a lot of things to be because like how that box get I was surprised by how many people didn't get that. Maybe Dylan doesn't deliver it in the end in some way, shape, or form, or maybe you're creating a theory that doesn't exist from that. Because
Mm.
maybe Dylan does get the box because like you have to connect certain points to the story. That box is in Kat's room when you see her. You can interact with it. Swann asks about it. There's an entire portion of the game, for example, where Swann we all disappear and Kat is in the house after the Corey fight, and Dylan's there. She could talk to Dylan about it. This could happen all before, for example,
Yeah.
the abyss sequence. So they could interact there, and she could say, "This package is going to be thingy. You need to send it to them." In itself, it's packaged the day after. Who's to say that the camcorder doesn't get in there some way? The what's on the front of the box as well? It's the lock that is in the in your little den with the other girls. Yeah, and it's powered by the abyss. Who's to say she can't put it? This is where, for example, these dots, if you start connecting them too early, you break something or you make it look ridiculous for what it is because it feels like this is doing something more where it'll start to explain things a lot
Yeah.
more effectively.
And this is what Michel's style is. Like, how many times have I played through Life is Strange 1 before I got like the full details of what's happening in the game?
Yeah,
It Michel's style is not really a one and done playthrough. He
yeah,
hides secrets throughout the game. Uh Even with Life is Strange 2, you have to play that multiple times to like really get the
yeah,
concept of things. Like it's just one of those creators that just he'll hide secrets, and if you don't pick
yeah.
up on them, you gotta play through it again. Sorry, bub. It's not a one and
Kate
done. It's not a
Marsh,
Michael Bay movie.
Kate Marsh on the roof.
Yeah, Kate Marsh.
Do you
Yes.
remember that when people went crazy over it in the window? And it's like, oh, actually, she's on the roof. Kojima does no different. Like with like putting little details, and you start seeing them. It's like, oh, actually, that was a bit of a surprise. I'm again, there are some things in Lost Records that we need to talk about, and with criticism and stuff. But
Sure.
even with these, like, not everything needs to explain. Because I've done this as well with other shows I've watched. Brian Fuller with NBC's Hannibal, one of the greatest TV shows I've ever watched. Even he talked about the fact that when Hannibal Lecter is not on screen, you need to figure out what he's doing in that screen because we don't tell you everything. We're mashing stories and doing that. That is down to you to explain it. And this is one thing that happens with, for me at least, current media where they start explaining everything and anything. And it's like they give logic. So it's like when Breaking Bad had El Camino. Did it need that? No. The story wrapped up there and it was fantastic. El Camino is just like whatever you watch it. Like, what was the point of
Well,
that?
they're
And
also
that's
developing shows to second screen it. Like, you have to explain it 2
yeah,
or 3 times because they're expecting you to, like, look at your phone and look back on the screen like, "Oh, I missed what happened," you know?
yeah. But
Yeah.
this is the issue that I had with it, because it's like, even when I said it's Dylan, people are like, well, they should have done more with Pam and like the ARG. I was like, the ARG is a minor component within the game, because the
Mm.
ARG can go offline. So imagine if you pick up Lost Records Bloom and Rage like 4 years from now, and the
Yes.
ARG doesn't exist, and then you tie Pam into it a bit more, and they're like, hang on a minute, who's Erin in this game, because there's a collectible, and why is Pam playing such a big role? And they're like, oh, it links to the ARG. Oh, the ARG that isn't online anymore. It's
Mhm.
like, it makes more like, you narrow it down to the 6 main characters who are in the game, including Dylan and Corey. It's obviously someone sent it, and it's not for it to be Pam as well. When she's sitting in the background, she doesn't play that much of big of a role. It's just a continuity link to give you the
Yeah.
story, and she has a nice little role that she plays in the game, which I'm all fine for. But then it narrowly down to the fact that someone needs to know who Bloom and Rage is, i.e., Dylan knows who Bloom and Rage is. She saw
Mhm.
what happened at the Abyss. There's a missing poster of Kat in the box. So when you open the missing poster, obviously she's been looking for it. Maybe it's a sign of, we needed a bit more time to reflect. Maybe we needed time to move on. Even your relationship with Swann as well can be different with Dylan, because Dylan can be really volatile to Swann. She's like, I'll never forgive you for what you did with Kat. Or she's like, oh, actually, you helped me with Corey, and I'm, taking my time with things. There's a lot of like variables here. And there's a lot of like little things where I feel like more dots will be connected as we go through it.
Mhm.
And ultimately, I'm not too blown away about like certain logistics. Even the 27-year thing as well. That's a reference to it, as we know as well, with
Yeah.
Stephen King. And I think maybe they might have done it with the marketing, where they've said it too many times, where I felt like it was too important to the story. I think maybe they should have just mentioned it once, rather than doing it every single time to do it. But it could have been 24 years, it could have been 20 years, it could have been 15. It doesn't matter. It's just a date. It's just referencing that. Or another theory I have potentially is that you link it to the Abyss, and every 20 years, 7 years, it opens and closes.
Mm.
Maybe. But again, the box gets there for whatever reason. And even the joking things, like, even for example, the batteries being in that camera and stuff,
Yes.
who knows? Maybe there's something being added onto the game that we don't know.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the mysteries, because at least with Michel games, I know that certain things that keep getting tied in. I'm always like good for that.
Mm.
Let's continue with some of the Michel Koch Twitter watch, because he is on a rampage at the minute. We love Michel as well. Um, Adam as well. Here, 18th of April. Did you guys expect? Oh, sorry, that's from Katie. Actually, we'll go in the shower. Did you guys expect Kat to be the most popular romance option? I get the vibe if the writers thought Nora was going to be fan favorite. Lol. And Michelle said, "Haha, good question. We always wrote Nora as the flirtiest option. That's who she is. For Kat, we know people would love her after the ending of Tape One, but we didn't know she would be that popular from the get go." Which is
Mm.
an interesting proportion. But yeah, she is a very good character. So I'm going to close that as well. And I'll tie this in as well, Adam, which I think this is an interesting one. I think I agree with this as well. Um, so just in terms of response, and someone said Dylan's one of my favorite characters because of whatever the conversations happened there. But Michelle says, yeah, says yes. Thanks for Dylan. Thanks for the Dylan appreciation. I wish we had more time to flesh her out, which I agree with. I would like to have seen more Dylan exposition,
Mm.
but again, independent project, all that other stuff, what can you do?
Yes.
But I think she would have been very interesting to explore. I think that was going to be more of the game on the second tape, which I was kind of thinking with. So this one as well, now that Lost Records is fully out, what was your favorite scene? Mine is this one, which is that. I'm going to try and move that out of the
Mhm.
way. That's from Swann's camcorder on Twitter. And then Michelle says, can I participate? I certainly don't have the same objectivity than players, but my favorite one is the padlock chant, followed by the dance sequence. Adam, I don't know how you feel about
Yeah,
this.
we all knew that's his favorite one. We all know it. That was such a
uh,
Michel coded scene. That when they came up, I was like, yeah, Michel just
yeah,
said, y'all sit down, let me cook for like 3 seconds here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also as well, when you literally took the words out of my mouth, when you said Michel coded, isn't
Yes.
that the most Swann Holloway coded comment ever?
Can I participate? Can I show you what I've cooked here?
That for me, where the first part, like, oh, we didn't like how that on the screen, but yeah, the first part of the thing for people who are listening, it says, "Can I participate?" and it's Michelle, and it's like that is more Swann Holloway coded than you'll ever see. That is straight out
Yeah.
of the Swann textbook. No, it's out of the Michel code textbook, and Swann Holloway's linked to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is not a surprise. Because I was
Not a
like,
shocker.
because like when I was at this point and we talked about the review, I was like, "Is this game going to land?" I'm like, "Michelle, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Is it going to land?"
Yeah.
but obviously clearly had a lot of fun with that. So like fair play to him. I can't like dispute that. And it's just nice. And Adam, last one as well, because when we'll wrap up and go setting the records. This is from Etienne Brassard, who is the principal VFX artist at Don't Know Montreal. And this is really interesting. So slight spoiler for Lost Records, doesn't matter because you're on the Lost Records journal. Slight
Mm.
spoiler for Lost Records, but there's a thing in the menu at the end of the game that nearly didn't make it. But seeing how you guys are reacting to it, I'm happy I went back to it. Sorry if I made you cry. Which I'm like, oh, that is interesting. That was
Wait,
almost left
there's
on
a
the chopping
thing in the
floor,
menu at the end of the game. So, like, is he talking about what feat do you see?
as you can see
Uh,
there.
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was thinking that, but I was just like, did I miss something? But yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that was a good.
no,
It almost didn't make it.
no, it almost didn't make it. Look,
Man, that would be
yeah.
harsh.
Because
Yeah.
I thought at first, I thought it was like, oh, actually, maybe it's. I was like sitting there reading it first. I was thinking, I was like, are you talking about the ending scene with like Finger? I was like, no, no,
Yeah.
it's when we got past the menu screen and we saw them,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Force Ghosts, as well.
Yes.
By the way, as well, as Chris has tweeted this on Lost Records fans, I can never see the sequence in the same way after watching the Family Guy one.
Yeah.
And they did it with, and Stewie's head's like snap. Oh god. Yeah, that's a really interesting detail. But these are the things that make this game, don't they? It's the soul and everything else about it. It's like when
Yeah.
we covered Sam Bradley's comments about making the menu and all the other stuff with it. And it's like, how we conceptualize it. And it's like one of the banger main menu screens you'll ever see in a video game, which is amazing. So um, yeah, all interesting, all interesting. So we're almost done, and I think we kind of moved over things because there's a lot of things to talk about. And
Mm.
do stay tuned because obviously we will do the review and the reviews episode, the next one or the one after, depending on what happens. Adam, should we move into our next segment?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, so we're going to our Rage Records segment. We're going to pull two out of here because we had a lot of comments on the review and spoiler cast episode. And thank you again so much to them. We do read them, and we will reply to this one before this comes out, or I think Adam has replied to it. Yeah, so we picked out two, and I think they were just doing from like the contrasting of certain things. So we got this from at Kira Brick, who put best game in existence. I think I loved it so much. It was like the best game ever, and I cried like so much, which is I think like again everything's your subjective experience, and we've always done that. Oh, we should have put this comment in there. I think this is a better one. Oh,
Yeah,
as
and
you
then
will.
this person apologized because it's like, "Oh, man, I didn't know you were going through a rough stage in life." I'm like, you don't need to know everything that happens in my life. I'm just a hater.
Yes, you are a hater, but yes, I will put Adam onto the greatness of Life is Strange 2. Let's
I've
just
been
highlight
on
that.
the greatness of Life is Strange too.
Just saying, I will put him on. That's not the comment of the day, but thank you for that comment. But I will make sure that happens. Do not worry. We will convert the pasture man for what it is, or the former pasture man on that.
Great.
Adam, second second comment at Sarame J94, which is an interesting comment. So here we go. The number of choices that actually impact the different endings and subtle variations is wild. It's
Yeah.
also complex to even talk about with others because everyone I know ended up with a completely different outcome and unique details. Definitely begs for multiple playthroughs. So it's two different ones. Obviously, a
Mhm.
lot of people put their comments in there. Thank you. I wanted to put this one in here, but Adam was like, no. And this was from Vlad's drum, and it says that I just realized how all the way you've been spoiling the endings, throwing it into the abyss. Now I'm definitely going to be thrown in for this comment. No, you're not going to because you validated the fact that I am always right, and that one theory will always be right about that. And I got it right, didn't I? I even said it to Adam in a message as well when we were playing the playthrough. I was like, "How dare Michel Koch throw people into the abyss? That's my job to throw people into the abyss." So come on, like
Oh,
you're pointing that out
Michelle,
there.
was the one ending that we talked about. That was Michelle's ending.
Yeah, yeah. I was like,
I
yeah,
really wanna get that ending, yeah.
yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah.
Two comments there. Obviously, we're now past that fair thing. I like the comments, the range of it, and there are other comments on there which, as you were like, and other people get their critiques in there, and it was really interesting to see the perspectives. And I'm glad that some people are really finding a lot of value in it when they love it. I think the other comment as well, which is great, where it's like, this does take multiple playthroughs. Like I'm doing this with you. I'm hopefully doing a video of Alex on podcast now, but I don't feel ready to even talk about this game. That's why like it's so difficult because like one of the benefits we have with Strange Cast is no matter how much we like Double Exposure or how much we like Life is Strange 2 or True Colors, you've spent enough time with them, playing them, and enjoyed them.
Mhm.
So it's like even with True Colors, like that was difficult when we were covering it because we came in at that point in the series when we were like started to do Strange Cast, and it was like you're covering it in real time and you're remembering certain things. And even that game wasn't as layered as this game. This game is layered. It's like if
Yeah.
you were starting an Oxenfree podcast at the beginning of Oxenfree and following it and getting in the lore, and even that game isn't as layered as this one because there's
Yeah.
so many different little things going on. We're currently talking about it, and we haven't even finished the other endings. I, for example, want to do a playthrough where it's all silent because I keep forgetting
Yeah.
about that, and I want to do the entire playthrough all silent, see what actually
Yeah.
happens.
And that's the thing,
Um,
like, you're making your opinions, or it's like going back on Oxenfree. It's like, man, this is what I thought about Oxenfree. Like, did you gather all the Adler letters? Did
yeah,
you read all the Adler letters? No, you didn't. So you don't know. So I don't know.
no, and you might like if you're at the ending and your ending didn't fit it, maybe that's just a worthwhile reason to go back and play it, get all the
Yeah.
other parts done, and then get the ones where you do like those endings because naturally it's like that because I was almost convinced that Autumn was going to be at the ending of mine and she wasn't, and it's
Yeah.
also like 'cause
There
it,
was a comment where somebody said that Autumn didn't betray the girls in their ending.
oh
I'm like,
yeah,
whoa, okay. That's
so
wild.
because they climbed out the window because there's variations of that as well because Swann can open the door, and I think the commenter said that they climbed out the window with them, and it said that Autumn got burnt. So everyone was saying that everyone thought maybe Swann gets burnt in the face because that's why her facial changes because that's why we
Maybe.
don't see her. But Autumn is the option of it, and also in the comment as well, they responded saying you can stab Corey, and it's like yeah, you can stab
Yeah.
Corey. It's like that is an option of
Broken.
it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think like there's the kind of like the variations and stuff that are happening. And it's like nice to see that because we haven't played it, but then other people have had other experiences come here, listen. And to know that's not going to like end your game because it's obviously if you see the other detail, that's fine. Like, when
Mhm.
you go back and play, it's not like a spoiler heavy thing where you can be like, oh, I wish I played it independently. But the endings are different as well because I know you loved your ending and some people didn't, where it's like, Swan goes into the forest on her own and she's like filming and she sees all the girls. And then some people have the autumn ending, some people have the Nora endings. Like, even when I had the Nora ending, Nora and Swan didn't kiss because they weren't love interest, but they can kiss there in that
Mhm.
ending. So it's like if you have them there, then there's an option that opens up there for them to kiss. So it's like all the variations are like really interesting to see how they play out and how they tell stories. Again, it's almost like they really did take that lesson from Life is Strange 2. And I'm so happy that the impact that Life is Strange 2 had, it didn't have a knock-on effect on them, and feeling that they didn't want to make another Life is Strange 2-S game. They kept formulas because we can so easily compare this to the first Life is Strange. It's very similar to Life is Strange to this in parts because they are expanding the dynamic and they're really following the story of the four girls. Um, so yeah, I thought the both those comments were fantastic. And obviously, there's loads of comments which were great. And thank you so much for all of them. But it's interesting to see how people felt about it on different spectrums. Again, there were criticisms within this game, 100%. Like there's 100% criticism in this game, and even when we finished the review and spoilcast episode, I said to you, I was like, "Is this better than Life is Strange?" And I'm like, it's such like a quick comment to make. I was like, "Yeah, we need to set the standard here." I don't think it's better than the first Life is Strange game, but I think it's up there as one of Don't Nod's better games in that
I think someone
run.
did comment that they liked it better than Life is Strange. I'm like, that's a wild take, man. But respect. Go for
Yeah,
it.
respect. Maybe you found that connection because, like, you could argue, for example, the characters are more depthy in this game than ever in Life is Strange. The
Sure.
depth of all four girls are bigger than Max and Chloe in terms of what they offer and like what they do. But does the story have the same impact? And then you're comparing all the metrics. It's very hard as well, and that's why I don't really want to bring double exposure in the conversation and use it as like a cheap throwing points against like Lost Records because it's so easy to do that, and they do different franchises now as well, and the two different like series, even if they do have like similar thematic points. But yeah, I think those are really good comments. So thank you so much for those as well. And as always, as well, if you do want to be on Rage Records, leave a comment, whether it's a theory or it's a comment or anything, just let us know that as well because we will diversify that as an option. I need to pick up because my AirPod died and we've been doing two back-to-back podcasts, so it's a lot of time. Anyway, we'll wrap up here. As I said, Rage Records, let us know any comments, anything else you want to talk about. We'll happily include in this podcast. We love having other people's inputs in here, so it's always nice to see. But yeah, we'll wrap up here. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are new here, please do like the video, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on notifications. It helps support the channel. We're almost 17. We're at 1,700 subscribers, so help us get to 1,800. If you don't like this video, we're done here. You're done. You're going to become a shadow.
Yes.
We're gonna, no, do you know what?
Yes.
Actually, we're going to put you in
Hmm.
Michel's favorite scene. If you don't like the video, we're going to put you in that scene. And you'll be floating around
Is
everywhere.
that a knock against Michel? Like, it's now a threat to be in Michel's favorite scene?
No, you'll be like floating around in the background. You'll be shadowing it. You'll be one of the shadows that appears in Lost Records, and you'll be pairing that. And you won't. No, you'll be positioned outside of the area, and you'll be watching him,
Uh-huh.
so you don't get to take enjoyment into it. That's a better way of putting it. We're not ruining Michel's favorite scene because of you. You'll be watching from the background. So yeah,
There you go.
like the video and share your friends. It helps support the channel, and also as well, the Lost Records channel is available on all podcast services. So go and check it out there. Go and follow, subscribe. We have 99 followers on Spotify. We have 27 5-star ratings, which is amazing. So thank you so much for that, and please do rate us because it helps boost our visibility, and hopefully this game keeps getting more eyes on it, so they keep playing it. So yeah, we are done here. Again, bear with us. The schedule is a bit all over the place in certain respects because we have something coming up which I hope happens. And we're just waiting for that to happen. So that this might come in between it. But stay tuned. I think maybe this takes a bit more precedent over Strange Cast for the time being. Obviously, we will be doing the reviews in the next episode, which will be I enjoyed in that episode. It's always fun with that. And yes, we will be doing that. So do stay tuned for that. But yeah, until next time, guys, take care. See you later. Bye.